In feudal Japan, there was a young warrior named Takeshi who entered the dojo of a renowned master with great ambition. He expected to receive thick scrolls containing detailed combat techniques, step-by-step instructions for every sword strike, and diagrams showing exactly how to defeat any opponent. Instead, the master handed him a wooden practice sword and said something that confused him deeply. "The manual is already inside you. I will only help you remember what your body already knows." Takeshi did not understand this at all. How could he know techniques he had never learned? Where was the book that would tell him the secrets of combat? But over the years that followed, through repetition, observation, and careful listening, Takeshi discovered something remarkable. The most powerful knowledge was never written down. It lived in the movements themselves, in the stories told during training, in the rhythm of breath and blade working together as one. This was the way of Kuden, the oral transmission that separated true masters from those who merely collected information. This ancient method reveals something profound about how the human mind actually works, and how the samurai developed memory capacities that seem almost superhuman to us today. They could memorize hundreds of combat techniques, complex strategies, and detailed kata sequences without ever writing them down. They passed entire combat systems from generation to generation through nothing more than careful demonstration, mindful repetition, and the power of embodied learning. Today, we explore the secrets of samurai memory techniques and discover how these warriors transformed their bodies into living libraries of martial knowledge. The first thing you must understand is that samurai learning was never about collecting information the way we do today. We live in an age where we can photograph everything, record every lecture, and save every document to the cloud. We have convinced ourselves that having access to information is the same as knowing something. The samurai understood differently. They knew that true knowledge lives not in scrolls or books, but in the body's memory, in the mind's ability to recall under pressure, and in the spirit's capacity to act without hesitation. This is why their primary method of transmission was called Kuden, which literally means oral transmission or mouth-to-mouth teaching. But Kuden was far more than just spoken instructions. It included the tone of voice used by the teacher, the timing of when certain teachings were revealed, the physical demonstrations that accompanied words, and the questions that forced students to discover answers rather than simply receiving them. Think about how different this is from modern learning. We read a textbook, watch a video, maybe take some notes, and we believe we have learned something. But the samurai would practice a single sword technique thousands of times over many years, each repetition slightly different, each execution revealing new layers of understanding that could never be captured in words. The master would watch silently, occasionally adjusting a student's posture with just a touch, or demonstrating a movement so subtle that only someone who had practiced for years could even perceive the difference. This was learning at a completely different level. Information was not separate from experience. Knowledge was not divided from action. Understanding came not from reading about techniques, but from allowing techniques to reshape your nervous system through endless practice. The concept of kata was central to this approach. Most people today think kata are just choreographed sequences, almost like a dance you memorize and perform. But in the samurai tradition, kata served a much deeper purpose. Each kata was like a compressed file, containing hundreds of principles, applications, and scenarios all encoded into a sequence of movements. A single kata might contain defenses against multiple types of attacks, principles that applied to entirely different weapons, and strategic concepts that worked whether you were fighting one opponent or many. The genius of this system was that students could practice the same kata for decades and continuously discover new meanings within it. A beginner might see only the surface movements. An intermediate practitioner would begin to understand the timing and distance principles embedded in the sequence. An advanced student would recognize how the kata taught fundamental strategies that applied far beyond combat, and a master would perceive the kata as a meditation on the nature of conflict itself, a moving philosophy that transcended technique entirely. This layered approach to knowledge served multiple purposes. First, it protected the most advanced teachings from those who were not ready for them. You could not skip ahead to the advanced material because the advanced material was invisible until you had done the work to prepare your perception. Second, it created a living tradition where each generation had to actively rediscover the depths within the techniques rather than passively receiving information. Third, it ensured that only students who demonstrated true commitment through years of dedicated practice would gain access to the deepest levels of knowledge. This was not about being secretive for the sake of mystery. It was about recognizing that certain types of understanding cannot be transmitted through words alone. The samurai also used what we might call environmental encoding to strengthen memory. They did not practice in sterile training halls disconnected from context. They trained at dawn and dusk when lighting was difficult. They practiced in rain, snow, and extreme heat. They worked on uneven ground, in confined spaces, and while fatigued from long marches. Each of these environmental factors became part of the memory encoding. When a warrior recalled a technique, he did not just remember the movements. He remembered the feeling of wet ground beneath his feet, the weight of armor restricting his movements, the racing heartbeat from genuine fear, and the specific quality of light at the moment of executing a strike. Modern neuroscience now confirms what the samurai understood intuitively. Memory is not stored as pure information, but as patterns of sensory, emotional, and physical experiences woven together. The more sensory channels you engage during learning, the stronger and more accessible the memory becomes. The samurai weaponized this principle by ensuring that every aspect of training engaged the complete system, body and mind working as a unified whole. Another powerful technique they employed was what we might call narrative threading. Complex sequences of techniques were not taught as isolated movements, but were woven into stories, metaphors, and poetry. A kata might be called something poetic like autumn leaves falling or dragon emerging from water. These names were not just labels. They contained the essence of how the movements should feel and flow. When a student heard autumn leaves falling, his mind immediately accessed a rich network of associations. The unpredictable pattern of leaves blown by wind, the sudden moments of stillness followed by bursts of movement, the gentle appearance that conceals the relentless force of nature. All of these associations informed how the technique should be executed, providing layers of meaning that dry technical descriptions could never capture. The masters also used koans, those puzzling riddles that seem to make no logical sense, as memory devices. A student struggling with a particular technique might be told the sword that cuts is itself uncut, or defeat your opponent before the fight begins. These paradoxical statements would stick in the mind precisely because they defied easy understanding. The student would carry that koan with him through years of practice, constantly returning to it, testing different interpretations through his training, until one day the meaning would suddenly become clear not as an intellectual concept, but as a lived reality understood through his body's experience. Perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of samurai memory training was what they called Hiden, the secret transmission. This was knowledge that could not be spoken at all, knowledge that could only be transmitted from heart to heart, from one living example to another. Hiden included the subtle qualities that separated a merely competent technique from a masterful one. The precise instant when defense transforms into counterattack. The quality of presence that allows a warrior to dominate a situation without moving. The internal state that generates power without visible effort. These things could not be taught through words or even demonstration. They could only be recognized by a student who had prepared himself through years of practice to perceive them, and then somehow transmitted directly from the teachers being to the students being in moments of profound connection. Modern research into motor learning and expert performance is only now beginning to validate what the samurai knew centuries ago. Expert performance is not primarily about conscious knowledge. It is about developing what scientists call procedural memory or implicit knowledge. This is knowledge that lives in your nervous system, in the automatic coordination of your muscles, in the perceptual patterns that allow you to see opportunities others miss. You cannot access this knowledge through conscious recall. It only emerges spontaneously when you are in action, when your analytical mind steps aside and allows your trained body to respond with its accumulated wisdom. The samurai also understood the power of spaced repetition long before modern memory scientists quantified it. They did not cram techniques the way students today cram for exams. They practiced the same fundamental movements every single day for years, decades, even lifetimes. This spacing of practice had several effects. First, it moved knowledge from short-term memory into deeply embedded long-term memory that would remain accessible even under extreme stress. Second, It allowed the body time between sessions to consolidate learning at a neurological level, literally rewiring movement patterns into the nervous system. Third, it created multiple opportunities for that magical moment of sudden insight that practitioners call satori. When something you have been practicing mechanically suddenly clicks, and you understand it at a completely different level. The samurai did not practice until they got it right. They practiced until they could not get it wrong. This distinction is crucial. Getting something right means you can perform it correctly when conditions are favorable and you are paying attention. Not being able to get it wrong means the correct response happens automatically regardless of conditions, fatigue, fear, or distraction. This brings us to perhaps the deepest secret of samurai memory training. They were not trying to memorize techniques at all, they were trying to forget them. This sounds paradoxical, but it points to the highest level of mastery. When you first learn a technique, you must think about every detail. Where to place your feet, how to position your hands, when to shift your weight. But as you continue to practice over months and years, the technique gradually sinks deeper into your being. You no longer need to think about the details. Your body remembers them automatically. Eventually, if you practice deeply enough, even the concept of technique disappears. There is only spontaneous appropriate response to whatever is happening. This is what they called Mushin, no mind. Not a blank empty mind, but a mind so thoroughly trained and so completely present that it responds perfectly without the interference of conscious thought. At this level, you have not memorized the combat manual. You have become the combat manual. The knowledge no longer lives in your memory. It has become your very being. So what can we learn from this today? We live in an age that worships information but struggles with wisdom. We collect books we never read, save articles we never return to, and bookmark videos we never watch again. We have confused access to information with actual knowledge. The samurai teach us something different. True learning is not about acquiring information. It is about transformation. It is about practice so deep and sustained that what you are learning literally changes who you are. It is about repetition, not as boring drudgery, but as the path to spontaneous freedom. It is about understanding that your body contains intelligence far beyond what your conscious mind can grasp. Most importantly, the samurai remind us that the greatest knowledge cannot be written down, cannot be transmitted digitally, cannot be compressed into a 3-minute video. It can only be embodied through years of dedicated practice under the guidance of someone who has walked the path before you. The manual is already inside you. You just need to remember. Thank you for watching.